His master grabbed his leg and started twisting. Slowly. Deliberately. Watching his face. Epictetus looked at him and said calmly, "I told you. That's going to break." The bone snapped. He didn't change his expression. This man, who owned nothing, who could be killed on a whim, who slept on the floor, became the philosopher that Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, studied every single morning. He had one idea. And once you understand it, you cannot unsee it. Think about what drains you on a given day. Not the big crises, those are obvious. The ordinary drain. The background hum of mental energy that disappears without result. Someone at work whose opinion of you hasn't settled, and you keep rehearsing the conversation you haven't had. A project outcome that depends on factors you can't influence, and you lie awake running scenarios. A relationship where the other person hasn't decided what they want, and you're trying to solve it from your side. None of those things are in your power to resolve directly. And yet you're spending your clearest mental hours there. In the territory of what you cannot change. This is not a character flaw. It is simply what happens when no one has ever shown you the line. Epictetus was a slave. He couldn't control his job, his housing, his safety, or his future. So he stopped trying to control any of it. And that's when he became the freest person in Rome. Epictetus was born around 50 AD in Hierapolis, in what is now Turkey, into slavery. His owner was Epictetus, a freed slave who had himself risen to become a powerful secretary under the Emperor Nero. He had no property, no legal rights, no guarantee of tomorrow. At some point, the exact circumstances aren't entirely known, he came under the influence of a Stoic teacher and began to study philosophy. After being freed, probably in his 30s, he established a school of philosophy in Nicopolis, in northwestern Greece. And then something unusual happened. The most powerful people in the Roman world started coming to his school, or sending their sons, or reading what he had written. Marcus Aurelius, who would become emperor, studied Epictetus every morning. The Emperor Hadrian admired him. His influence spread through the highest levels of Roman society, not despite the fact that he had been a slave, but in some ways because of it. He hadn't theorized about hardship from a comfortable library. He had lived it. And the philosophy he taught was the philosophy he had needed in order to survive. He wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." The man who had almost nothing chose to build his entire system around what was still his. The Dichotomy of Control, this is the idea. It comes in the first chapter of the Enchiridion, the short handbook his student Arrian compiled from his lectures. Epictetus never wrote anything himself. What we have is what others recorded. But those first lines are among the most consequential sentences in the history of philosophy. He wrote, "Some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever are not our own actions." Read that again. Slowly. In your control, your opinions, your desires, your choices, your response to what happens. These are yours. No one can take them from you without your permission. Not in your control, your body's health, your reputation in other people's minds, your property, the outcomes of events you set in motion. These are not yours. You can influence some of them, but you cannot own them. The entire Stoic system rests on this distinction. Not as abstract philosophy, as a practical tool for deciding where your attention lives. Because here is the mechanism of suffering. We spend our attention on what we cannot control, and then wonder why we feel powerless. He wrote, "Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things. It isn't the event that causes the suffering. It's the interpretation, the judgment we bring to the event. and the judgment lives inside the circle. It is always, always yours. Application 1. Relationships. Think about the last relationship that drained you, romantic, professional, or otherwise. What were you trying to control? Probably how they saw you, whether they would change, how much they valued you, what they would decide. None of those are in the circle. None of them are in your power. And the energy you spent there, the hours of rehearsed conversations, the reread messages, the scenarios you built to explain their behavior, produced nothing. Because you were working outside your jurisdiction. What was in your circle? How you chose to behave. The standards you maintained. What you communicated clearly. Where you directed your attention. Epictetus didn't say relationships don't matter. He never said detachment from people was wisdom. What he said was that your response, your behavior, your choice of engagement, your decision about who deserves your time, that is yours. The other person's response is not. He wrote, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. No one can make you feel a certain way without your mind agreeing to it." This is not victim blaming for external harm. It is an observation about the mechanics of the emotional response. The trigger is outside. The fire is inside. And fire is in the circle. Application 2. Failure and career. Losing a job. A project that didn't land. A rejection that felt like a verdict on your worth. The Stoic question is simple. What was inside your circle, and what wasn't? The outcome, who was hired, whose proposal won, whether the market responded, outside. Not yours. The effort you brought. The quality of your thinking. The honesty of your work. The way you responded to the loss. Inside. Completely yours. The failure of modern ambition is usually not that people don't work hard. It's that they direct their energy toward the result, which they can't control, instead of the process, which they can. Epictetus watched his fellow slaves strain against their chains and exhaust themselves. He watched them try to influence things beyond their reach. He saw where that led. He wrote, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." This sounds passive. It isn't. Wishing things to be as they are doesn't mean approving of them. It means not wasting your energy fighting the unchangeable parts of reality so that you have energy left for the parts you can actually affect. The Stoic response to failure isn't grief or defiance. It's redirection. What can I learn? What can I do differently? Where can my effort actually move something? This isn't resignation. It's precision. Application 3. Anxiety. Anxiety, in the Stoic framework, has a single source, placing your attention in the future, in the outer circle, on outcomes you cannot control. It isn't irrational. It's misdirected. The Stoic cure isn't, think positive. It isn't a cognitive reframe, or a breathing exercise, or a reassurance that things will work out. It's simpler and more demanding than that. It's a redirect. When you notice anxiety arising, ask one question. Is there something I can actually do about this right now? If yes, do it. Take the action. Put your attention where it can produce a result. If no, it is outside the circle. You are spending your energy in territory that doesn't belong to you. Acknowledge that. Then return to what does. He wrote, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." The rest as it happens. Not as you wish it would happen. Not as you've designed it in your head. As it actually happens, because that's all it can do. Epictetus didn't pretend the uncertainty was comfortable. He was a slave. Uncertainty was his entire existence. What he discovered was that the discomfort of uncertainty is manageable, because it lives outside the circle, and the circle is where you actually live. Here's the exercise. Take whatever's stressing you most right now. Draw 2 columns. Left column, things I can control about this situation. Right column, things I cannot control. Fill both honestly. Then, only act on the left. Let go of the right. Not because the right column doesn't matter, but because your energy is finite, and it belongs where it can actually make a difference. Epictetus did this with his entire life. He had almost nothing in the left column. A broken leg. No property. No rights. And he was the freest man in Rome. The Enchiridion by Epictetus. It's 53 short chapters. You can read it in an afternoon. And it's free on Project Gutenberg. The link is below. If this channel has been useful, consider subscribing. Every video applies ancient Stoic wisdom to a real modern problem. No motivation porn, no empty quotes. Just the ideas that the people who faced the hardest lives in history actually used. I'll see you in the next one.